Good morning. It is an honor and a privilege to be here. My name is James White. If you haven't had a chance to meet me, we've been here for almost 2 years. Our first service, I think, was in April of 2023. We came to the Good Friday service. Thank you, dear. And we were dating at the time, and I said, we need to make sure we find a church that is loving, supportive, encouraging. And I just want to thank everybody here for being that for me. You see, during the week, I'm Chaplain White. I'm at the domiciliary at the Central Texas VA in Temple. And for the past year, I actually have been coming up on Sunday mornings and doing small church services in Building 94 before the service. So I get to preach at 8:30, 9, and 9:30. And I can tell you that I am very, very grateful for Pastor Dave, because it may not be until after the service when most people have left, but he'll come up and be like, "Are you okay? Everything going all right?" And he has been a very good, supportive person to me. We have had a great series, and I want to thank each and every person that spoke over the last 4 weeks. I want to thank Mark for sharing his story, especially about how his friend was there to encourage him. I ran a marathon once in 1994 in Berlin, and I don't know if I can speak for Mark, but I can say if you ever see me running, the only time I'm going to be running is if I'm in danger. And then Sam shared his story about when his family had to sell the land, and that had to have been heartbreaking for him. I actually, please don't hold this against me, I'm originally from upstate New York, and I went on Google Maps, and I looked at the house that I grew up in, and they modified the front of it, and I was like, oh my God, what did they do to my house? That's my childhood home. And actually what they did is they expanded the living room out front and then moved the entrance over a bit, and it actually looks better, but don't tell my dad. And then, of course, the Reverend Dr. Mary Spradlin came, and she shared about the years of her life when she began to embrace the cross. So from 17 to 24, the Christian faith became her faith. And of course, we all know what it's like in our college years, that life is radically transforming. And sometimes that's good, and sometimes that's scary. And then, of course, last week, Victoria shared about the peace in the middle of bad things happening. And my friend, even though I'm not ordained in the United Methodist Church, I am ordained, and I consider you a colleague. And I thought you did a fantastic job, so thank you. Very quickly, I will tell you that this is actually my 6th hospital. I started off at Hillcrest Medical Center in Tulsa as an intern. Went to the VA in Muskogee. It's actually quite lovely. It's very pretty there. There's lots of trees around the building. The only problem is in the wintertime, you can't go up the main entrance because there's this very steep hill, so you have to drive all the way around to get in. Spent 2 years in Oklahoma City at their VA. I actually got to spend a little bit of time at OU Medical. Obviously, I don't like anything crimson and cream, but I will tell you that the senior chaplain there was a very, very godly man, and I learned a lot from him. And then I got to go be a prison chaplain for a while, and we'll share about that here in a minute. But then in 2020, I got to go up to the Kansas City VA, and of course, we all know what happened in 2020, so it's kind of weird that, as a hospital chaplain, for me, it was kind of good because I got to see lots of sick people. So, and then, of course, I've been here in Central Texas for the last 3.5 years. I want to start off with a funny story. I actually did an internship when I was in seminary at a Lutheran school, at a Lutheran church. Now, help me out. If you're at a more liturgical church, the pastor will start off by saying, "The Lord be with you," and then the congregation will say, all right, so no matter what I say next, I want you, when I do this, I want you to say, "And also with you." All right, so try it again. And also. All right, so this Lutheran minister was messing with his microphone, and it wouldn't come on. And he's frustrated, and it pops on, and he doesn't realize it, and he says, "I'm having a problem with this wireless microphone." Yeah. So you can see that he wasn't having a good day. But what happens when your good day or bad day turns into a bad week or a bad month or even a bad year? What do you do? In our text this morning, we are reminded that both those who believe in Jesus and those who do not, those who built their house on the sand, those who built their house on the rock, both of them go through the storm. My biggest storm was between November 2018 and April of 2020. Now, we're not used to having titles for the sermons around here, but today the title is How to Write a Country Song. Okay, because in that period of time, I lost 5 things. I lost my car, I lost my job, I lost my house, I lost my dog, and I lost my first wife. Yes. Now, my car, I had an older Buick Park Avenue, and some of you probably are familiar with those things. They drive like a boat. They're wonderful. They just float. And you just... Well, I was coming home from work. I did work at a medium security prison after I got done in Oklahoma City. And I saw this glowing light in the rearview mirror. And for one brief second, I thought, oh my gosh, it's the presence of God. And then I turned around and was like, no, my car is on fire. And I'm in it. So I got through the 4-way, pulled off to the side, tried to put the fire out with my coat. That was a really bad idea. That damaged that coat. Somebody stopped along the side of the road. I was like, do you have water? They said, no, we have milk. Nothing. The fire truck finally showed up. Somebody apparently called and they come up to me with this really concerned look on their face. And we're like, are you okay? Would you like oxygen? Would you like to ride the ambulance? And of course, I was this strong man of faith and courage, and I was like, I'm fine. Everything's wonderful. No. I was a weeping mess. I was like, my car is on fire. So I thank God that, oops. All right. You know what it means when a pastor has their watch out? Nothing. With my job, I loved my job as a prison chaplain. They did one thing really well. They kept rival groups that didn't like each other on separate sides of the yard. So I was responsible for Compound 1, and Chaplain Fox was responsible for Compound 2. But I had to help him from time to time to kind of, for lack of a better term, babysit some of the worship services. And they had a professional musician. And please don't take this the wrong way, but one of the gentlemen there was absolutely amazing. One of the best bands I've ever heard anywhere. But him and I had a dirty little secret. See, A.W. Lee wanted to go back in the Army, and so did I. If you can't see this, no, not yet. That is the Army Chaplain Corps. And I went to Chebolik in 2008, and I really wanted to be an Army chaplain, but that wasn't God's plan for me. But A.W. Lee came to my office one day and said, "Hey, chap, I'm going back in." I was like, "Oh, that's great, sir." "Yeah, there's too much politics around here." I was like, there's a small problem with that. I still work here." Well, the new guy that they brought in was very harsh. Did not think very highly of inmates. He changed my entire schedule, made me cut back on programming. My first boss told me, "You got to keep them busy, chap. Got to keep them busy. They got too much time on their hands. Got to keep them busy." I was like, "Yes, sir." I found out later that I was perceived as being too nice. I actually treated them like people. Oh, what a novel idea. Looking back, I realized I was different than the leadership of the prison, and quite frankly, we have to be different than the world so we can truly be like Christ. One of the people that I look up to, Jürgen Moltmann, said, "Only someone who finds the courage to be different from others can ultimately exist for others, for otherwise he exists only with those who are like him." Now, I went in on my own time because I realized I was off the week of Christmas. I didn't give security the call-out list for the weekend. If there's no list, nobody goes to church. So I went in, printed off the list, put them in the yard officer's box, and left. I was there for 5 minutes. I got fired for working off the clock. I found out later by one of the teachers that they also got fired. He got rid of all of our support staff. They filed a class action lawsuit against him. I, praise God, was able to move on, but of course, what happens when you can't pay the bills? You lose your house. Now, I told the people that we were financing with, my daughters painted the bedrooms. I got to paint them back the way they were. And they're like, "Sure, go ahead. You got 2 weeks." So every day before, I did get another job. I was running a group home for people who had developmental disabilities. Well, one day I show up with a bucket of paint and the key doesn't work. That's when it hit me. The tears started flowing and reality hit me like a ton of bricks. You see, sometimes you only know when there's a storm, not from the rain falling from the sky, but from the water flowing from your eyes. Now, the dog. This is Nolly. Nolly knew exactly who to beg from and who would give her human food. I would also take Nolly for walks so she could take care of business. But we had that dog for 13 years. And I had to give her away to another family. Thankfully, she's well taken care of. And last but not least, I lost my first wife. And this wasn't the first time she cheated on me. If you're wondering about how I'm still in ministry, please refer to Matthew 19. You see, I went to live with a friend, and my wife went to live with my oldest daughter, and then she got a job as a nanny. And I thought, wow, this is really good. She hasn't worked in 20 years. Now she wants to deal with a young girl that has autism. I was like, wow, what a challenge. Well, that woman of the family that hired her left her husband, and my wife became the stepmom. Now, thankfully, when I moved to Kansas City, I moved right across the street from the International House of Prayer. So I spent a lot of time in that prayer room. Now, there are 4 things that I've learned from this ordeal. Number 1, when you build your house on the rock, it means you seek God in the good times and the bad. I spent hours in that prayer room. Not only praying for my situation, but praying for the nation, praying for the pandemic. I was sharing with one couple earlier before the service started that even though nationally things seemed crazy, I can tell you the leadership at the Kansas City VA was doing everything they possibly could to try to make sure that our veterans were going to get well. And they brought in some medicine like remdesivir and some others. We started seeing people leave alive. And trust me, that was a good thing, and we celebrated it. Number two, even when you can't see God, God is still with you. If you're building your house upon the rock, He's still with you even in the middle of your storm. And I guarantee you, there's probably a few people right now that are going through some storms in your life today. He's still with you. Lean on His everlasting arms. Number three, not all life circumstances are going to be good, but you can still be happy in the middle of the storm. I wish I had sent you that picture, and I apologize, but I have this picture of me in the shirt's got red sleeves and a silver middle, and it's me inside of one of the kids' bedrooms, and I'm painting the room. And I got a smile on my face. Even in the middle of losing my position as a prison chaplain and being told that our house is being taken away, I still managed to find some joy. And number four, you can learn a lot in the middle of suffering. See, suffering is at the heart of the theology of Jürgen Moltmann, one of my favorite theologians. And in the book, The Crucified God, Professor Moltmann says this: He reveals Himself through suffering and cross, so He repudiates in us the arrogant man or woman and accepts the sinner in us. Romans 12, verses 11 through 14 say, Do not lag in zeal, be enthusiastic in spirit, serve the Lord, rejoice in hope, endure in suffering, persist in prayer, contribute to the needs of the saints, pursue hospitality, bless those who persecute you, bless and do not curse. Let's back up a little bit. We're in April of 2020. Let's back up a year. April of 2019, I actually had to get a job just to pay the bills as a car salesman. I didn't last very long because I kept telling people the truth. But I was in the lobby, and of course, what is Oklahoma known for? Tornadoes, yes. And the place I worked at was in a little town called Cushing, Oklahoma. That's where the prison was. And there was a cell moving right towards it. And I have to admit, there was a part of me that was like, oh, good, God's going to get them back for what they did to me. And then immediately the Holy Spirit was like, no. You go pray for them. Now, before you tell the Army or the VA that I hear voices and they try to send me to 94B, I'm talking about in our conscience. God speaks to us through our conscience. I was like, I don't want to pray for them. Those jerks fired me. They treated me very harshly at the end. Go pray for them. Went over to the conference room, just sat down, said a short prayer for them. I found out the next day, literally, there were a couple buildings in town that got some roof damage. Literally, nobody got hurt. And I thank God for that. You see, bottom line is, Jesus knows our troubles. He will be with you in the middle of your storm. He knows what it's like to suffer because He suffered and bled on a cross so that you and I may have life. Now, He might tell you to pray for your enemies, but He still loves you. Bless those who persecute you. Can't I just skip over that verse, Lord? No. No, you can't. But I thank God because just literally like Job, I got double for my trouble. When I moved to Kansas City, I made double what I made at the prison. I can now tell you, after going through everything that I went through, with 100% confidence, that He will be with you in the middle of your storm. Amen.